There are many experiences and theories that make up my teaching philosophy, and these have been formed from many years of different involvements and experiences. But what I really believe is that the student is, of course, the centre of importance, whether it be their social or emotional or intellectual development. It's the most important thing, and creating experiences to help them grow and develop in these areas is really the role of the teacher. So I think part of my philosophy is creating a trustworthy environment for everyone in the environment, including the students and their peers and other people in the community. So creating a respect for the teacher, the students, and between each other. So then they'll feel comfortable, and that's when they'll begin learning. Once children feel accepted and that they are trusted, they feel more comfortable in their learning environment and they become more confident in their own learning. So part of this is developing a good teacher relationship with every individual child, and I think this is a really crucial part of teaching. Another one of my beliefs is having a learner-centered curriculum with individualized learning. Education has definitely moved away from those traditional methods of teaching, and it's not just transmitting knowledge to students anymore, it's helping them create experiences that will actually help them in life. And I think this is why a learner-centered environment is most important. Creating education for each individual child so that they can get the most out of their education. This also gives them more confidence. They can work productively towards their own goals, and they can take their learning into their own hands and feel inspired to do so. And whenever I've seen a learner-centered environment, this is what I've noticed. They feel more comfortable because they each have their own goal. They're all working towards something that is actually relevant to them, not just information that has to be given to them or facts that they have to know, like how a traditional method would have been. So after being a part of an alliance school, which I'm not sure any of you are a part of, but it's an initiative of Deakin University through which we university students get to engage in professional discussions, and through a thing called an assessment circle. So during this time, we focused on assessing student learning through providing them feedback, and also talking about feedback that we were given, and that students gave us on our own teaching. So I see this as an important part to my philosophy, so the feedback given, as I think it really helps differentiate learning. So if a student's not getting something, or they are and they want to proceed, giving the right feedback is probably the most important thing. Not just saying, well done, you've done it, but giving them the steps so they can keep growing in their learning and keep acquiring new skills. So one of the ATL standards says, it's standard number 5, and it says providing feedback to students on their learning is demonstrated by an understanding of the purpose of providing timely and appropriate feedback to students about their learning. And I think I've really gained a better understanding of the importance of this feedback, whether it be behavioural, intellectual or social. There's always opportunity to give feedback in these situations. So for feedback to be effective, I've learnt that students have to respect and trust you. Otherwise, they think that you're picking on them, or you're just telling them what to do. So that goes back to the trustworthy environment that I really think every classroom should have. John Hattie explains that a safe learning environment for the learner and for the teacher is a caring, idea-rich environment where the learner can experiment, so be right or wrong, and have the content and thinking about the content and make connections across ideas. So this kind of environment, error is really welcomed and fostered, because we learn from those errors and then we can move forward from them. So it's not simply saying right or wrong to a student, it's actually giving them the skills to move forward. So one example where I believe I've used effective feedback was I gave explicit instruction in maths to a group of students, and then after a while, I got students to demonstrate their ideas on the board, and one student I noticed had done it a very strange way, but I got her to explain her thinking on the board, which helped her clarify what she'd done wrong. I didn't tell her she was right or wrong, but I let her explain it on the board. After she'd finished, I got a couple of other students to explain how they'd done it, and they both had the right answer. So she could see from this that there were other ways of doing it. So this gave her a tool to help her improve her own learning, to seek peer help or try different ways. So this built on the knowledge that she already had. So then I got her to go back and try other ways of doing it, and she got the right answer, so that was good. And Hattie also explains that feedback is more effective when it provides information on correct rather than incorrect responses. So it's building on previous traits. So after she got the right answer, I asked her to investigate many other ways that she could find the answer, and then this helped her to build these skills in this topic. Another aspect of my philosophy is differentiated learning, and again Hattie explains that teachers need to be prepared to understand and adapt to the learners and their situations, context and prior learning. And I feel like this really coincides with the ATEL standard 1.5, which says differentiating teaching to meet specific learning needs of students across a full range of abilities. During my last placement, I really tried to take hold of this concept because I hadn't done a lot in differentiating. I'd seen it tried to be done at a couple of schools, but in most cases they just gave harder worksheets to one group and easier worksheets to another, and I don't think this is really differentiating learning. So one example of this was I had a group of about 10 in a reading group, and one of them has a learning disability, and they were really struggling to grasp what they needed to do. So I thought on my feet and changed the task just slightly to make him understand it better, and made it a little bit easier, and he got it and he felt confident and continued to work, which was strange for him because he usually lacked inspiration to keep going. So this was really I didn't really plan for this, but it does show how I've used differentiation, and it helped him go forward, which was really good. Another time that I used it was when I planned an integrated lesson, and I let after the introduction to the lesson, I let the students choose how they wanted to display their learning. So this allowed them to take control of their own learning, and the skills that came out were quite amazing, really. Some did posters, some used the computer, some made animations, and it was really good to see the different skills and the different ways that students learn. And this also helped them to keep going and to have inspiration to do so. And I think working in a class of 55 students, I've really learnt how to differentiate, because there's so many different levels, and it's really about finding similar skill levels through assessing and through feedback, and figuring out which student's going to have difficulty, and finding tasks that's going to suit every student, which goes back to that learner-centered environment that I believe is really important. I think I now believe that an ideal classroom should have a combination of a constructivist environment, and this is where students with different learning styles are catered for, and they can follow a learning that is best suited to them, and also a learner-centered environment through which the students can really focus on their own learning and through their own exploration. As Eitzel states again, graduate teachers are to use effective classroom communication and demonstrate a range of verbal and non-verbal communication strategies. And during my first placement this year, I observed this, as we all did, in setting up a new classroom for the year, and I considered all the ways that communication needed to be used, and these were visual cues and things around the room. And then once school started, the verbal communication, the use of diaries to leave notes for kids, giving verbal feedback. Communication is probably the most important thing. And one thing I saw that worked really well was just visual cues, especially for those visual cues of what we had to do throughout the day. So a picture of lunch, picture of snack, reading, writing, maths. And this really helped those with learning disabilities. Another thing I saw worked really well was an iPad at the entrance to the classroom, and this was used to take photos of the students learning throughout the week, and parents could see it and they could talk to their kids about it, and it was a really effective way of communication. So I really hope that my classroom has a real sense of community. I want each and every student's opinion to be valued and respected, and I want them to feel comfortable and confident in that environment. And I think all these things I've spoken about help achieve this goal. And I just really want them to achieve their highest standard in all areas, social, emotional, and intellectual development. Thank you.